Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode of Garbage Time with Boda Sports. I am Soggy Boy on the left side of the screen again. With me tonight, I got Drew. What's going on?
What's going on, yo?
Right, well, we are officially in a new season of Garbage Time, season number 4. I can't believe we're here already. It's been a wild ride of ups and downs and in-betweens. So, but we're officially, we're going to start up a brand new season, take a nice hiatus when summer camp arrives, and then come back for the season, preseason when it starts. But the draft coverage, I think, is the best place to start and start anew and fresh, new, old perspective, if you want to.
Oh, yeah, draft and free agency, perfect place to start a new season. All these teams getting refreshed, baby.
Yep, nice and easy. So, let's start off with some headlines here. A lot of them free agency related, obviously, with a ton of moves going on. Biggest news, and we can put a little ticker down there for the free agency part of things. But biggest news coming out of free agency, really with all of these lucrative deals going on, especially in the quarterback market. Kirk Cousins getting a 4-year, $180 million deal with a $90 million guaranteed, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of money for a guy that's only won one playoff game,
and is coming off a torn ACL.
Yes. I mean, Atlanta needed a quarterback. They certainly went out and got the guy that they thought was, going to elevate them to the next level. So, I mean,
see how it plays out.
We'll see. Well, yeah, I mean, we will. I mean, we will absolutely see how it plays out. Going from Washington to Minnesota certainly worked out for Kirk Cousins, I think. It proved to everyone that he wasn't just a middling quarterback. I think he's the definition of
he's a solid starter.
Yeah, he's like the number 12 guy. Like, he is the definition of a number 12, number 13 guy in the league, right? Yeah, he's not gonna wow you like crazy, but he's also gonna play and perform better than you would expect him to, I guess, if that makes sense. But
I think the best way to put it is he's not a guy that's gonna go out there and win you games on his own, but he's gonna make the throws that you ask him to make, especially with the weapons that he's got now in Atlanta. That offense is gonna be pretty scary with someone that can actually deliver the football with a little bit of accuracy.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, some other QB news. Guys like Mitch Trubisky signing with the Bills. A guy like Jacoby Brissett re-signing a 1-year, $8 million deal with the Patriots. We saw Tyrod Taylor go to the Jets, which I don't think anyone really saw, which doesn't really matter. Russell Wilson. Baker Mayfield. Re-signing with the Bucks, which I kind of had a feeling once Mike Evans had re-signed that he'd follow suit. Russell Wilson signing with the Steelers. Pretty big move there. Who else do we have? Joe Flacco just signed a 1-year deal. With $4.5 million guaranteed with the Colts. Mac Jones being traded from the Patriots was a big one. We saw Mason Rudolph go to the Titans. Gardner Minshew go to the Raiders. What else do we have? Drew Lock
plays football.
Yeah, I know. Drew Lock still plays football, signed a deal with the Giants. Marcus Mariota signed a deal with the Commanders. Brett Rypien, I guess, is still around too. He signed with the Bears. And the last one really is Sam Darnold signing with the Vikings. So a lot of QB movement. That's why I wanted to highlight. Yeah, right. A lot of names that you're just like, okay, interesting. Moving around, I think
happens. Lots of second chances getting doled out here. Lots of backup action.
I mean, I have to say it's interesting to see the moves that are being made, and want to highlight one team in particular with the Steelers, right? So the Steelers sign Russell Wilson. Okay. The numbers speak way more than his actual performance did. Because if you look at his numbers from last year, the previous 2 years, they're good numbers. They're actually they're pretty decent numbers.
Not from 2 years ago. Last year's numbers were solid. but 2 years ago, he was fucking dog shit.
No,
All
this
numbers.
this year and the year before that were pretty good.
Hold on.
Yeah, go for it. I looked at them the other day. But he's going into a situation in Pittsburgh where they've had mediocre quarterback play ever since Ben Roethlisberger left, right? And what's the first thing that they do after signing him? They trade away Deontay Johnson. Now, probably not gonna keep him. It doesn't seem like you're gonna keep him.
Right.
And they can also draft wide receiver talent, so that's fine. But I thought that was very interesting. What?
So, 2 years ago, Russell Wilson had a 60% completion percentage, mid.
Yeah.
3,500 yards, mid. 16 touchdowns, awful for Russell Wilson.
Yeah, that's bad.
To 11 interceptions. He didn't even hit 2-1 on his touchdown interception ratio. That's fucking miserable. Last year, he was 26-8, so much, much better. I think if you put the 2 years together, you can say they're okay stats, but you cannot look at that first year and say that he played any type of decent.
Oh, but that's my point, is that the numbers are speaking a different story than what we've really seen. Like 26-8, yes, that's significantly better. But what I'm trying to get at is that when you're watching him play, you don't see those numbers aren't reflected in his game. They really aren't.
This past year was definitely better.
No, it was better. It was better for sure. I mean, he had a
Portland Sutton this year. He had he was more comfortable in the system for sure. But that first year was awful.
Right, and that's the thing that I feel like a lot of people are missing, is that big jump from that prior year to this year. Is he threw 3 less picks and 10 more touchdowns? I mean, that's significant. That's a significant jump.
He did throw for 500 less yards.
Okay, I mean that's fair, but I mean it seems like he is. I mean, to me that screams they are getting the ball more inside of the red zone.
I guess. How are they getting it there?
I mean, I don't know, but
regardless, I don't think it's going to be a great year for Russ. He doesn't have a whole lot to work with in Pittsburgh right now. It's going to take some building around him, and it probably will, again, take him a year to get used to the system and everything. So I'm expecting a slow start from him, but he's definitely not beyond saving yet, but he's close.
Yeah, right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, but other free agency news, I mean, there have been a lot of moves going around. I think the biggest news that came out of today was the Calvin Ridley news, and him signing, going back and forth between, I want to stay with the Jags, I might sign with the Patriots, and then boom, out of nowhere, signing a 4-year, $94 million, $95 million deal. What was it?
92.
A $92 million deal, with them. Yes, 4-year, $92 million, with a little over half of that guaranteed, which is insane. But yeah, I mean, it's
the Titans. They're not gonna use him right. They never do.
Again, there was obviously a reason why he chose Tennessee. There's a reason, right? If he wanted to stay with Jacksonville and the money wasn't there, I mean, Tennessee's not super close, but it's closer than New England, right?
Look at who's playing quarter, unless Will Levis takes a giant step this year.
He could. I mean, the Titans' offensive line was garbage last year. I mean, if they make some significant steps towards building a better offensive line, then yeah, maybe he'll do better. I mean, he showed us a couple of flashes throughout the year. I mean, there were some points where he was making really good throws and making some really good reads, and he did win 1 or 2 games, on his arm last year, which
he also lost 3 or 4 on his arm.
No, you're right. That's decision making though. That can, the arm talent is something that you have to build up over years, and decision making. If you can make one or two more reads the right way, that could change the entire outcome of a game. So, I mean, but
yeah, I
yeah,
don't see any reason for Tennessee not to invest heavy in the offensive line. They've already gone out and gotten Tony Pollard. They've already gone out and gotten a solid receiver. Like, they're very clearly interested in building this offense. And my position on offense, it all starts from the line. So if you want these pieces to fit in any type of decent way, you gotta bolster that line. So that has to be their prerogative moving forward.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it sure is. They've had one offensive line signing, and that was Lloyd Cushenberry, the center. Who they signed to a 4-year, $50 million deal. But yeah, I mean, as far as guards, tackles, no movement on that. Other big news for you, Drew, the running back market, or really lack thereof. Just all these running backs just not getting paid, and I could have told you that. I could have told you this was going to happen because it's the most replaceable position on the field.
It unfortunately is
in a passing league. In a passing league, if it ever reverts back to a running league, then we can say whatever we want about wide receivers and tight ends or whatever. But
it's true, and obviously, like we've said many, many times before, you have your exceptions. You have your guys that can break the game. You have your Saquons. You have your Derrick Henrys. You have all these guys that can make their own space and elevate your run game exponentially. But it again, all starts with the offensive line. So when you have to build your running game based on all those factors, running backs end up getting less than they probably should when they are the caliber of running back that they are. But I mean, you saw some big ones. Saquon of the Eagles obviously is the biggest.
Yep.
And then,
but I mean, other players that we really didn't think were gonna move on from their team, or guys like maybe Tony Pollard, I thought was going to at least try to strike a deal with Dallas, and obviously moved on.
Not after the usage of him was fucking slashed. No way.
Which is insane.
No, it's ridiculous. He scored like 4 touchdowns last year.
Barely. Yeah. Derrick Henry to the Ravens was another terrifying. Huge one.
That's fucking terrifying. Yep. Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in the same backfield is going to eat up at least 90% of the defenses in the league. Yep. Like that, I don't know how you can even game plan for that. You're either going to get run over by a freight train or get danced around by Lamar. There is no Ravens are going to Super Bowl next year.
Well, that's if Lamar can actually play like
MVP list here.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I mean, I think other big signings, Joe Mixon, or at least I guess trades as well, because we've seen some trades. But Danielle Hunter signing with the Texans, 2-year, $49 million deal. That's a huge one for that Texans defense. They were a pretty decent team last year. Had that crazy run, obviously, with CJ Stroud coming in as a rookie, but adding Danielle Hunter is huge for that defense. Who else do we have here that I want to go over quickly before we get into our drafting?
Let's talk about the Packers, because we haven't done that. Picking up Josh Jacobs, letting go Aaron Jones, David Bakhtiari. Bakhtiari we saw coming. Huge, Aaron Jones, the heartbreaker.
Xavier McKinney.
I was getting to that one. I think Xavier McKinney was the top safety in the market. Antoine Winfield, you can make a case for sure, but he went back to Tampa immediately. But no, having Xavier McKinney in that backfield, oh man, that defense is going to be stellar. In that offense,
it should be.
So
it should be. I mean, in terms of our own teams, I want to make sure I pick up any big signings. Trade again. I mentioned Deontay Johnson was traded from the Steelers to the Panthers. Joe Mixon was traded from the Bengals to the Texans. What else? There was one other trade that I'm missing. I can't seem to find it, but I'll talk about the Patriots really quickly, and then we can move on here. But Patriots made a couple of moves, a lot of re-signs, which is good because that's what they really needed to do is re-sign some of their good players that they want to build foundation with. Michael Wenu is one of the guys that they really needed to keep, and they did. They ended up paying him, which is great. Mac Jones I mentioned earlier, but being traded to the Patriots. Jerry Jeudy was the other one who the Browns acquired from the Broncos, which was wild. I didn't expect the Browns to be in on that at all. But they got Jerry Jeudy for a 5th and a 6th round pick. I mean, between him and Amari Cooper, they've spent like 3 sub 4th round picks on both of these guys who are going to be electric for them.
Yep.
Wild. But the Patriots re-signed guys like Kendrick Bourne, who when healthy is a really good additional piece for that offense. Hunter Henry, who again was the safety blanket for the last 3 years for Mac Jones, and whoever else played quarterback besides Bailey Zappi. I know that there was some other guys. Brian Hoyer played like 2 games. Re-signing a guy like Kyle Duggar, technically speaking, have him re-signed in the transition tag, which is a whole mess of things. But re-signing Anfernee Jennings as well. I really liked his play, especially when Josh Uche kind of stepped back last year. He stepped into that role. And picking up guys like Antonio Gibson, I think that was a really good signing for them. They've had a need to have a pass catching back in their backfield for the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, ever since they stopped utilizing James White, they've just kind of gone away from that type of back. I mean, and Antonio Gibson is still a 1,000-yard rusher on top of averaging like 40, 45 catches a season, which is significant when you're averaging that many catches out of the backfield. I mean, that is a significant amount. So I'm happy about that. They didn't pay him an arm and a leg either. I mean, they're paying him like a little under $4 million a year, which is great, especially where Washington just stopped utilizing him at the end. I mean, he was their guy for 2 years, and then they stopped feeding him the ball. I don't know why. Weird, but yeah, I mean, there are a ton of other moves. I mean, there have to have been like at least I would say near 100 signings, trades or trades already this offseason. Patriots alone have like 15, mostly re-signs, but yeah, I mean, anything else in free agency that you want to talk about before we moved into full-time draft chat?
I just got one more thing, and that was I'm glad my Packers listened to me and brought back Keyshawn Nixon, because that was the big one for me. He's an electric presence in the kick return game, and losing that would have hurt really bad. So I'm glad he's back.
I agree. I think that was a good thing for your team to do, especially in the return game. So perfect. Just adding this here. All right, we're gonna move on over. Gonna talk about the draft. First, it's going to be hard. We want James on here because James is our go-to college guy, has seen most of these quarterbacks play. My team needs a QB, so I have been studying them. I really mostly the top 3, but I've been looking into some of the second-tier guys as well, just to kind of get a better understanding. As the Patriots may trade out of 3. They may go for a tackle, wide receiver in the top 10, and pick up a guy later in the first round if they want. There are some decent options, it seems like. A guy like Bo Nix, a guy like Michael Penix Jr., who, again, they're a little bit a step below that top threshold, that top 3 grouping. That's kind of pulled away from the rest of the pack, but it remains to be seen, I guess. So let's talk about quarterbacks in this draft, because like I mentioned, there is a top grouping. There is a top 3, possibly a 3B or a 3.5 if people have been paying attention. So obviously, consensus number one overall pick. I think we fluctuated. We've gone up. We've gone down on multiple different players on this spot. However, for most of the time, it's been Caleb Williams. It's most likely going to be Caleb Williams, unless something insane happens at the top of this draft order. Caleb Williams will be a Chicago Bear come April 23rd or 4th, or whatever the draft is. But I think, looking at a guy like Caleb Williams, he is the guy. He is the guy. I know that there's a lot of stuff off the field, a lot of mental and emotional stuff that has been happening off the field. From a pure talent standpoint, he is the dude. He is undoubtedly one of the best prospects to come out of college at the quarterback position in 20 years.
Yeah.
Again, from a talent standpoint. Now, again, everyone knows that the quarterback position is not about talent. If it was, Tom Brady wouldn't have won 7 Super Bowls.
Yep.
Facts. You have to be able to balance that talent and the mental side of the game.
If
Also,
he is on a team that he can't mentally invest in, he's gonna do nothing.
Right. Which is why him to the Bears is hilarious, because they're just gonna end up with another like Justin Fields.
Nah, he's got a way better arm than Justin Fields.
I guess, yeah. That is true. He does. He also, yeah. We'll go into it a little bit more here, but yeah. I mean, Caleb Williams' arm strength, escapability,
improvisation,
improvisation, pocket presence, everything is there for him. I mean, people are going to knock him on footwork and he doesn't always extend the play when he should, or he overextends the play sometimes. If you watch this kid in college, now last year was a little bit of a different story. He had a bit of a down year, and I guess really a bit of a down year is throwing 5 less touchdowns than he did the 2 years prior, which doesn't mean anything, but that the talent is there. He is the consensus number one overall pick, especially for a team who is actively shopping their current starting quarterback, who needs a quarterback, wants a quarterback of the future. Caleb Williams is the guy. He is going to go number one overall. Again, I mentioned previously there were like little inklings that, maybe Jaden Daniels is going to go number one overall. Maybe Drake May will jump. Maybe JJ McCarthy will. No. It's Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is going number one overall. He is my number one quarterback in this draft. I don't think that really there's anything that is going to sway me. I get that Jaden Daniels won the Heisman. I've heard the arguments, but Caleb Williams is my number one guy. I'm assuming, Drew, you would agree with me. Obviously, you have your own opinion, but
from a talent perspective, it's hard to disagree with. There's none of the other quarterbacks are as complete as Caleb Williams, unfortunately. But
yeah, it's the truth. It's the truth. So my I guess we'll go top 5 just to make it nice and easy. And you can add what you can add if you are taking a look, but my number 2 guy, this is fluctuated. I've seen, I don't know. I watched hours of film on both, and it's really hard for me to put either of these guys at number 2. But if I had to give the slight edge, I would give it to Drake May. Now, I said I don't want him. And the reason I don't want him is because I would be really nervous to have a guy like Josh Allen as my quarterback, because he's a gunslinger. It's what he is. And I don't know, just it's unsettling to know that at any given moment it's going to be a pick or a fumble because he can't control himself like that. Now, he's not as skittish as Josh Allen. He's not running the ball like Josh Allen, but he's got the same kind of tendencies. He's got a really good eye over the field. He struggles sometimes throwing to the sides, which you need to do in the NFL, but that comes with time, that comes with trust with your wide receivers. You have to work on that.
He's got enough arm talent that I wouldn't be worried about that.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like he's a guy that has the arm talent, and the outside throws come to quarterbacks who are patient, who work on it. And again, that is about trust with wide receivers as well. Throwing down the middle, if you have a guy who has 5 yards of separation, you can throw down the middle, you're fine. If you have a guy that has 2 yards of separation on the sideline, right? It's like, okay, I don't really know. I don't know if I don't trust myself to throw this, right? It's building that trust. So, he also played in the ACC, which, I guess hasn't really bode well for most quarterbacks coming out of the ACC. I mean, when is the last guy that we've had that has come from the ACC that's been a bona fide stud at quarterback, right? I can't say that
translated to the NFL.
Right. Like maybe Trevor Lawrence, maybe, but even so, like that's a stretch. So
I wouldn't call him a stud on the Jaguars. He hasn't done anything that has made me go, "Oh yeah, that's the Trevor Lawrence."
No, right. He had, but that's what I'm saying. Like that is the comparison here in terms of legacy of the ACC coming into the NFL at the quarterback position. Other positions have done fine, but I guess technically FSU, but Jameis Winston was an absolute bud. Deshaun Watson at yeah, okay. I guess Deshaun Watson would have been the last one. Yeah, that's a fair point. And if we're missing anyone, you can obviously, all of our zero watchers and listeners can let me know. Which again, because like I said, I just started watching college football and I really paid attention. But yes, yeah. So I mean, that's your comparison right there. That's the last actual good quarterback to have come out of the draft and to that talent is translated over.
Well, it's not to say that Trevor Lawrence hasn't been good. It's just he hasn't been what he was in college. I think Deshaun Watson translated much more easily and much quicker.
Yeah, and I think the main difference between him and Trevor Lawrence is Drake May just feels a lot more fluid in his throwing, his motion. Trevor Lawrence just always seemed bulky. The way he threw was really statuesque. And I think Drake May kind of has a little more fluidity to his game. And the big reason why I'm picking him as my number 2 over Jaden Daniels is stature. Both of them are tall. They're both 164, 163. But Jaden Daniels is like 50 pounds lighter than Drake May. Jaden Daniels is a thin guy. And he's taken a lot of big hits in college. And I know James has like put his red flags out on Jaden Daniels because of that. And that's fine, right? You've taken big hits, but these are college guys. You're going to be going up against NFL caliber linebackers and defensive tackles. If you get hit the way you get hit in college, you're not going to last. And so I want a guy that can run but throws first versus a guy that runs but can also throw. And this is the same thing I have against Lamar Jackson.
I mean, that should be the mindset for any quarterback. Throwing needs to come first. I mean, any aspect that you can add in the run game is fantastic. Any escapability that you have, any ability to extend a play with your legs is great. But as a quarterback, you need to be able to make the throws first and foremost because, like we said, it's a passing league, and we've seen how running quarterbacks work out when they don't have the arm talent. And Lamar has arm talent. He can make throws. So can Justin Fields, but to a much lesser degree. But no, you can't go out looking for a quarterback that doesn't look to throw the ball first. That's just not a recipe for success in the league.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And the big thing for me here too is you're going through the year, right? You're going through all your seasons. Your body's going to wear down. Arms, legs. The one thing you can keep sharp at any given moment is your mind and how you process the game. And Jaden Daniels has really only had one year of excellent work. The other 2 years were mediocre. And again, you're at LSU. That is a good system. That is a good team. And they got some wide receivers in through the transfer portal and whatnot, and guys like Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, who is, both of those guys are slated to go in the first round. Malik Neighbors possibly a top 5 pick. And it seems like he benefited from that a lot. But at the end of the day, again, I want a guy that can make the right decision versus a guy that can outrun someone, right? Yeah, maybe the right decision sometimes is to break, contain, and run the ball, right? That's fine. And Drake May can do that. He definitely can, but that is not his first decision. That's not his first process.
Instinct.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word, but yes, not his first instinct. That's what he wants to do. He wants to throw the ball. And I feel that Jayden Daniels it's going to be tricky with him because if he doesn't have a good offensive line, he's never going to get the mindset to sit and watch. If you can't sit and watch, you're always going to run. And if you always run, you're going to either end up getting hurt, fumbling the ball, or you're not going to last. Not everyone can beat Lamar Jackson. That's fine. And I think, and I'll give Jayden Daniels props. I think that he can throw the ball better than Lamar Jackson. I think he can.
Here's one thing that I think needs to be said about Jayden Daniels, and that is his consistent improvement in the areas that he has decided to work on in his game. When he decided that he needed to bring his turnover rate down, he brought it down. He plummeted that shit.
He did. You're right.
He had one of the lowest ratios of turnover-worthy plays in the country. And this year, he's worked a lot on ball security again and getting the ball downfield, which is super important at the NFL level, is getting the fucking ball downfield. And he's also been working on, dealing with pressure better, which is a very important thing relative to what you were saying and his instincts of run or pass. If he knows how to deal with the pressure better, his instincts will develop to a point where he'll have a much more idealized sense of what to do with the ball and when.
Yeah. And listen, and to be completely fair too, and this is again not to knock Jayden Daniels, because I think that him and Drake May really are super, super close. Jayden Daniels is an excellent deep ball thrower. I mean, he had a deep grade of 99.2 according to PFF. What? That's
crazy.
Yeah, no, out of 100%, 99.2 grade. I mean, that's wild. So, he did really well. The one thing where, he had a bit of trouble with is throwing under pressure. He has like a 63 grade, it looks like. But with no pressure, 90.
When he needs to work on something and improve it, he has shown us that he can do that in spades, and that's something he's focused on this past year. So here's what I'll say. Okay, so when he first started, he had a decent season. He threw the ball 303 times, 65% completion percentage. He only threw for 2,300 yards. He had 10 touchdowns and threw 10 picks, right? So he came back the next year, 2022. This would be his sophomore season, I believe. He threw the ball 390 times, had a 68.2 completion percentage, threw for 2,900 yards, but he threw 17 touchdowns and only 3 picks. He had 101 passer rating. So, and again, this is last year. This year, he obviously won the Heisman. He had an overall PFF grade of 94.7. He brought up his yards by almost 1,000 total passing yards. He threw for 40 touchdowns and had only 4 picks. His passer rating was 143.7. Yeah, no, when you got a guy that improves to that degree between seasons, the potential is fucking unlimited. Because, I mean, look at that.
He has a lot of potential.
Up threefold almost.
He did. And this is why I have them so close. Because of that exponential growth, because of that ability to take something that is a weakness and make it into a strength, right? And again, the deep passing is there. He's gonna be excellent on play action if he has a team that does that. right? If he's a team that has RPO or does read option, any of that stuff, he's going to excel at that quick decision making. But extending the play, that's where it's going to be a problem because he is a small guy, or he's a thin guy. He's not built like. And again, you can add weight, you can add muscle, all of that stuff. That's fine, right? Anthony Richardson's what 6'4" and like 235, but he's a big dude. Like Jaden Daniels is pretty much the same height, and you look at them, and it's a stark contrast. So I have issues, I have worries about the injuries. I would love the Patriots to draft a guy like that, but what are they going to, what kind of offense are they going to run with him, with Alex Van Pelt, and we're going to run the ball, and that's how you win football games now.
Yeah,
So,
if he ends up in a system like that, you're going to have to find creative ways to ease him in and take the pressure off to start. You can't just expect him to come in there and deal with the amount of pressure that he's going to end up with on a team like the Patriots, whose offensive line is more or less in shambles at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they brought back pieces, but that's besides my point. So yeah, I have Jaden Daniels at my 3 there, and then it gets really interesting because you have a couple of guys in that second tier. A guy like JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., who I mentioned earlier, a guy like Spencer Rattler, who has kind of climbed a little bit. I know the draft combine showing wasn't great for him, according to James, who did watch he watched that portion, the QB portion there.
I am not any type of high on Spencer Rattler. I don't think he's going to amount to much.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I think that he had a decent start at Oklahoma, and then he wasn't able to continue that production at a little bit of a lesser program. No offense to you, James, but Oklahoma to South Carolina is certainly a step down.
And South Carolina had some good weapons. They did.
Don't get me wrong, they did. I mean, they have some guys that are going in this draft that are going to be good. Xavier Legette should be a good weapon. But yeah, so let's talk about the next tier. I know you got to go in a couple minutes, so I'll do this quickly here. But I'm out of JJ McCarthy. I think anyone that wants him is an idiot. I will say this until I die. The dude has a wet noodle for an arm. He cannot throw the ball.
That's not true.
He can't.
That is not true. That is absolutely patently untrue.
He can't. He cannot throw the ball.
That's wrong. That is factually incorrect. He absolutely can throw the ball. He is going to end up being a solid passer. He might need a little bit more time than some of these other guys, and he might need some extra help, but he will eventually be able to throw the ball very well at an NFL level. He does not have a noodle for an arm. That is misinformation.
I disagree. If you actually watched his draft combine day, he could not throw the ball.
Okay, yeah, everyone has an off day or two, but if you watch him play football, he makes some very good throws. He throws some fucking dots.
I mean, listen, to me, it is Mac Jones all over again. And Mac Jones. What's that?
He's got a way better arm than Mac Jones.
Again, not to me, he doesn't. I went through his body of work, and yes, he does make some dots, but go back through Mac Jones' tape. He also threw dots. He was also a good quarterback at Alabama. Arguably had a better body of work than JJ McCarthy did.
Yeah, he played for Alabama.
Again, but that's my point. Yes, I understand that. He played for Alabama. He had all those weapons, but he looked like an NFL starting quarterback. He had the part. JJ McCarthy does not look like that. I'm sorry, he doesn't. Not to me. And I could be completely wrong. I was absolutely wrong about CJ Stroud last year. I own that. And that's perfectly fine. But when coming from a guy who experienced the highs and lows of Mac Jones, it feels like the same thing. All he did was manage the game for Michigan. They were not a pass-first offense. Now, again, if he comes into an offense and they're not relying on his arm to win games, absolutely fine. He'll be good. He'll be manageable. But I'm talking about this second tier, guys like Michael Penix Jr., who can absolutely sling the ball. the dude is accurate in all three levels of the field. He can throw that out ball. Guys like Bo Nix, who again started off very questionable, he was the fourth best quarterback in college last year. I mean, he really showed himself. He really showed himself, and I think the league that, hey, you really should have passed me up. Yes, I play for the Pac-12, but his 2023 season, he threw for 45 touchdowns and had 3 interceptions. He had a 135.7 passer rating. He threw for almost 4,500 yards, and he had a 77 completion percentage. Again, yes, we get it. That's the Pac-12. Last year, the Pac, whatever you want to say about it. But in a second tier of guys, I'm taking a guy like Bo Nix. I'm taking a guy like Michael Penix Jr. over J.J. McCarthy. I don't know what people are seeing in J.J. McCarthy to have him elevated to that status. And again, you clearly see something, but I don't.
He has experience in a pro-style offense under a successful NFL head coach. That
great.
Itself is incredibly valuable on the mental side.
That's fine, but he has to go to a team that actually has a competent offense, and
which he probably will. Where he's slated to
go.
He's not slated to go to some bumfuck team in the top 10. He's gonna go late first round, early second round. Maybe. I hope he doesn't go early second round because then he might be fucked.
But my issue here is that teams like the Broncos, teams before the Kirk Cousins signing, like teams like the Falcons, teams like the Vikings, who now have a need for quarterback, they're drafting. A lot of people have them, J.J. McCarthy, going in within the top 10 now.
I think
this is the point that I'm making.
Great fit on the Vikings.
Sure, that's fine, but my issue here is that why I don't understand why he is jumping up so high after the combine day that he had, because it wasn't good. It was not good. If you actually watched him throw the ball, it was not good.
So I don't put that much weight on the combine. These are dudes just going out there and fucking throwing in nonsense situations. There's no pressure. It's not a football game.
But
it's
true.
Great I think to know what these guys can do when there's nobody else on the field. That's fucking fantastic. But in a real game situation, he has valuable experience and he has shown his potential for growth. I don't see a situation like, again, if he ends up on a bad team for a young quarterback, I get that. But if he ends up in a system that's got weapons and a line, and which he very well could, I think he's going to be very good.
See, I just can't see it. I don't see it because I don't think that he has the eye for it. I just don't. Like, he cannot throw the ball well. At least, again, he is throwing to dudes that are wide open, and he is missing them every single time. That is literally what happened at the combine.
Yeah, dudes that he has no rapport with and are just out there running routes. And again, it's the combine. Everybody has a bad day. Like, I just don't put that much weight on the combine. I really don't. I don't
put that much weight on the combine, but if you're a quarterback and you can't throw the ball to a dude that's running a 10-yard route and is open and you're missing him by like a good 5 to 10 yards, that's a bad sign. I don't care if you have an off day. You're going to have an off day in the NFL, and what's your off day going to get you? That ball's going to be picked off and returned for 6 points, and you're going to get your ass benched. I mean,
name a quarterback that doesn't throw a pick six every once in a while.
No, that's fine. Rodgers. But I'm saying, like, my entire point is that, yes, I don't put a lot of weight into the combine. However, when you perform that badly at a combine and somehow your draft stock is still rising, it makes no sense to me. And that's a red flag. That is an absolute red flag.
You talk to teams and they see what your mentality is. They see what your experience is. They judge whether or not you can fit in their system. There's so much more that goes into it than just having a bad day at the combine means you're going to plummet immediately. Well, all right.
But that's fine. But it has nothing to do with
we've talked enough about JJ McCarthy. We'll see how it plays out. I have confidence that he will be a good NFL quarterback.
I have him at 6. I have him behind guys like Bo Nix and Michael Penix. Actually, I have Michael Penix at 4. I think that Michael Penix arguably might be the most NFL ready QB out of this draft. He is on the older side. I think he's 25 now, maybe. He's on the older side. I know that. Sorry, no, he's 23. I don't know why I thought he was 25. One of those like super senior things, but he's 24. He will most likely be. He's going to be 24 in like 2 months or whatever. But
I don't
the injury.
I don't disagree with the ranking. I think that's an accurate ranking, but
having Bo Nix and Michael Penix over JJ McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but here's
quarterbacks in this draft.
well, but that's the thing, right? Is that guys like Bo Nix and MPJ, like they're not in that upper tier of quarterback, but both of them had significant seasons, especially Michael Penix Jr., who led his team to the national championship and eventually lost. It didn't seem like he had a good game, but if you look at the numbers, he really did. He had a decent game, and he was throwing the ball on a dime for most of that game. It just he couldn't get his team to rally. But he killed the shit out of Texas. I mean, they stomped Texas.
Do you want to remind me who we lost to in the national championship?
Yes, Michigan's defense.
JJ McCarthy.
Correct. Yes, he lost to JJ McCarthy
on the biggest stage in college football.
Correct. That's fine, but again, you still have him ranked better than JJ McCarthy, so what's the point?
I think he's a more NFL ready player right now, but I think JJ McCarthy has all of the tools to make things happen.
Well, we're gonna have to agree to disagree because I'm not that high on JJ McCarthy. Again, I don't hold the combine to a higher standard like some people do. Obviously, 20 years of a dude that ran a 4.40 in 6.3 seconds or whatever the hell it was. So again, most of that stuff doesn't translate to the game. But if you're not going to at least try to take it seriously, and you're going to throw the ball and you're missing literally every throw, and you're just trying to throw footballs around in the hallway and you're missing guys in the hallway too, and you look like you're throwing ducks everywhere, I'm not going to pay. I don't want to draft you. I don't want them. I want nothing to do with them. I don't. So again, personal feelings.
The Patriots right now, anyways. So
no, it doesn't. But again, that's my point though. Is like my entire point behind this like tirade, this rant, is the fact that JJ McCarthy is climbing, and I don't get it. There is no understanding for me on why he is climbing draft boards when he came out and performed like that at the combine. That's my point, right? Is again, if you have a decent combine, you test well, a lot of the mentals, you climb. But how do you go out in the combine and throw ducks everywhere? Again, I don't know how well he tested mentally. I'm sure he did fine, right? He played again. You're right. He did play in an NFL style offense. You're absolutely correct. He had an NFL caliber coach. That's amazing, right? And I'm sure he prepared him. Right. And I'm sure he prepared him as much as he possibly could. But it's not, again, it's not who I want. That is not who I want. I have him ranked lower. If he gets put into the right, again, a guy like, and yes, he's more talented than a guy like Brock Purdy, for sure. But I think it's a Brock Purdy situation. He's got to be put in the right situation. And even then, I don't know if it's going to be enough for him. So that's what I think. But again,
all right, well,
my opinion.
We'll see how things play out.
Yep. But so again, I guess my top 6 really, a guy, Caleb Williams, Drake May, what?
Fucking arbitrary ass motherfucker just to leave JJ McCarthy out. Could have said top 5, but no, I had to go top 6 just because JJ McCarthy's your number 7. Okay. All right. I see it.
What are you talking about? No, he's not.
You just said he was.
No, I didn't. I didn't say I've had him at number 7.
You said you had him as your 7th ranked quarterback.
No, I didn't.
You did.
No, I didn't.
Go back and watch the podcast.
I said I had him behind guys like Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr., but he's better than Spencer Rattler, and I think he's better than guys like Jordan Travis and Joe Milton. But
Okay, so who's your top 6?
Caleb Williams, number 1. Drake May, Jaden Daniels are interchangeable, I believe, at number 2, but I give the slight edge to Drake May because of the type of quarterback he is. I prefer that type of quarterback versus the running quarterback. But again, not getting into it. That's my 3rd. Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, and then JJ McCarthy. I never said anything about 7. Again, maybe you heard it. Maybe I did say it. But I don't think I did. I don't know.
I think you did. Anyways. All right. Let's wrap it.
Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate it. You guys know where to find us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. For James and Nick, who could not be here tonight, and for Drew, who's sitting by, thank you so much. Stay soggy.
Bye.